My name is Lauren Miller. I'm 33, and until this year, I honestly believed being a good daughter meant setting myself on fire to keep everyone else warm. The day that belief finally died, I was standing in a hotel ballroom in Florida, holding a tray of centerpieces I'd stayed up until 2 a.m. the night before to finish. It was my parents' 40th anniversary vow renewal. My idea, my planning, my money. Except if you'd walked into that ballroom at the Seaside Harbor Resort in Clearwater Beach, you'd think my younger brother Evan had single-handedly organized the royal wedding. He was on the mic, smiling for everyone's iPhones. "I just wanted to do something special for Mom and Dad," he said, voice full of fake emotion. "They've sacrificed so much. Covering all of this is the least I could do." The room awed. People clapped. My mom dabbed her eyes. My dad gave him a hug. I stood in the back, in my wrinkled navy dress, smelling faintly like hot glue and hairspray, holding that stupid tray of eucalyptus and baby's breath I'd DIY'd to save money. My phone buzzed in my hand. A notification from my credit card app. "Your recent charge, Seaside Harbor Resort, $7,842.19, posted successfully." My stomach flipped. I watched Evan take credit for a party I had planned, paid for, and practically bled over. I watched my parents beam at him like he hung the moon. And then I heard my mother say the sentence that shattered something inside me. "We always knew you'd step up when it mattered, sweetheart. You've got such a generous heart. Not like your sister, always so practical." Not like your sister. I nearly dropped the tray. In that moment, with my feet aching in Target heels and my bank account gasping for air, I realized something. I wasn't the good daughter. I was the family workhorse, the project manager, the emergency fund, the free therapist, the built-in event planner. And they weren't just oblivious. They were using me. That night, in a hotel bathroom that smelled like artificial citrus and leftover champagne, I decided this would be the last time. The last time I saved them. The last time I paid. The last time I let them erase me. If you're between 25 and 45, exhausted, resentful, and somehow still the one everyone calls when the group chat says, "Who can help?" this story is for you. Because this is the story of how I finally stopped being their backup plan and became my own. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, in a perfectly average 3-bedroom ranch house with vinyl siding, a porch swing, and a yard my dad refused to pay a landscaper to mow because we've got hands, don't we? I'm the oldest. Evan is 3 years younger. From as early as I can remember, our roles were set. I was the responsible one. He was going through a phase. I made honor roll. He made excuses. I was the second mom by middle school, packing my own lunch, sometimes his, double-checking we had permission slips, calling the dentist for my own appointments because my parents were so busy. When Evan forgot his homework, Mom would sigh, "He's just not organized like you, Lauren. Be a good sister and help him out, okay?" Helping out meant proofreading his assignments, setting alarms on my phone so I'd remind him of deadlines, sitting next to him at the kitchen table while he half-heartedly did his work and I did mine. If I complained, Dad would say, "You know your brother struggles. You're so capable. It's easier for you." Cable became my curse word. In high school, Evan crashed my first car, a used Corolla I'd bought with summer job money while skipping class. He was texting. He wrapped it around a stop sign. Dad yelled for about 20 minutes. Then he turned to me. "Why weren't you two riding together? You know he's not a careful driver. You're the responsible one." I remember standing there, staring at the cracked headlight, realizing I was somehow responsible for not preventing my younger brother from stealing my car and crashing it. It was like that with everything. When he forgot Mom's birthday, I should have reminded him. When he missed a job interview because he overslept, I should have checked in. When he blew his paycheck on sneakers and then couldn't cover his part of the phone bill, I should spot him just this once. Just this once turned into 15 years of just this once. Meanwhile, I did everything the right way. I stayed in state for college to save money, got a business degree from Ohio State, worked at Starbucks at 5 a.m. and interned for free in the afternoons, graduated with only $18,000 in student loans, and was told I should be grateful it wasn't more. I moved to Austin, Texas at 24 for a project manager job at a mid-sized tech company, sharing a one-bedroom with a roommate so I could pay off my loans faster. My life was spreadsheets, Jira boards, and Slack pings, and my parents saw me as our girl who's doing well, thank God. Not like your brother. He's had such a hard time. Such a hard time being dropping out of community college after 3 semesters, getting fired from 3 different sales jobs, moving back in with my parents at 27, and contributing exactly $0 to the household except dirty dishes and drama. Every time he messed up, Mom would call me. "Don't tell your dad, but we helped him with his car payment again. Could you maybe send a little this month? We're stretched thin." And I did. I sent $200 here, $400 there, paid the past due electric bill twice, bought my parents a new washing machine when theirs died because your dad's Social Security check just doesn't go that far, honey. I told myself it was what good daughters did. I told myself once Evan found his thing, it would get better. It never did. Instead, the asks got bigger. It wasn't just emergencies anymore. It was plane tickets, vacations, little extras. "We'd love to come visit you in Austin, but flights are so expensive. Your brother is really down right now. Maybe a weekend somewhere nice would help his mental health." I started to resent answering FaceTime. I started to resent the ding of a text from my mom. But I kept saying yes, because the flip side of being the capable one is being the designated fixer, and I didn't know how to stop. The vow renewal started, like all disasters, with a seemingly harmless group text. I still remember the date, January 3rd, a Wednesday. I was back at work, slogging through emails after the holidays, trying to shrink my to-do list before Q1 kicked into gear. The family group chat lit up. Mom: "Big news! 40 years of marriage this June. Dad and I were thinking it would be so special to renew our vows at the beach, just close family. What do you think?" I stared at the words, my cursor blinking in a budget spreadsheet for a product rollout. Beach, vows, close family. Dad chimed in. "We've never done anything big for our anniversaries. Would be nice to do something special while we're still young enough to enjoy it." Translation: we want a destination event we can't afford, and we're soft launching the guilt campaign now. Evan replied in less than a minute. "Yo, that would be amazing. You two deserve it. Let's make it happen." Of course, he loved the idea. He's not the one with a 401k contribution and dental insurance premiums. Mom replied, Lauren, what do you think, honey? You're so good at planning things. There it was, the hook. I should have said, sounds great, but I can't take that on. Instead, I stared at my tiny Slack window, with my manager reminding me about an upcoming launch, and felt that familiar knot of responsibility tighten in my chest. I typed, "It could be really beautiful if we keep it simple and plan ahead." My phone rang that night. It was Mom, already breathless with Pinterest ideas. Matching outfits, sunset photos, a small intimate dinner that somehow involved a private room and custom menu. "Your dad and I can maybe cover our flights and a night or two somewhere cheaper nearby," she said. "But honey, we just don't have what you do. You've got that good job and no kids yet, and..." There it was again. You've got that good job, no kids. Translation? You're our walking ATM. I tried to set a boundary. "I can't afford to pay for everything," I said carefully. "Austin rent isn't cheap. My student loans..." "Oh, sweetie, of course," she interrupted. "We'd never expect that. Just, you're so good with deals and points and all that. Maybe you could handle the logistics? We'll pay our part." I heard my dad in the background. "Tell her we'll pay what we can." What we can turned out to be not much. Over the next month, handling the logistics turned into researching venues along the Gulf Coast and in Florida, coordinating vacation days with my job, searching for cheapest months, comparing Airbnb versus hotels, calculating how many people we were talking about, my parents, me, Evan, my aunt and uncle, their 2 grown kids. 8 people. Peak season. Beachfront. My spreadsheet told the truth. This was going to be expensive, no matter how many hot deals newsletters I subscribed to. Every time I tried to talk about budget, the conversation shifted. "Do you think we can get one of those oceanfront rooms with a balcony?" Mom asked. "It's our 40th. I want it to feel special, you know?" "I can't handle a motel," Dad added. "My back can't take those beds. You know how it is." Evan texted me separately, like some kind of co-conspirator. "Evan, you're the best for doing all this. I know they can be a lot. LMK, how I can help." I took a breath and wrote, "Me." Honestly, the best way to help is to put money toward the reservation. I'm getting quotes. He left me on red for 24 hours, then replied, "Things are tight right now. I'm between contracts. Once I land this new gig, I can send you something. But I'll definitely pitch in that night. Buy drinks, etc. Promise." Between contracts. Right. Meanwhile, work was ramping up. I was leading a major rollout, late-night Zoom calls with devs, pressure from leadership. "This is a big opportunity for you," speeches. I was hitting my metrics, but I was drained. I'd drag myself home, heat up Trader Joe's orange chicken, and then spend 3 more hours comparing resort packages. I put the entire deposit on my card, flights and hotel reservations for everyone. I justified it. I had some savings. I'd get my annual bonus soon. They'd pay me back, at least partly. I booked 4 rooms at the Seaside Harbor Resort in Clearwater Beach. Ocean view, mid-range but nice. Dinner package, simple floral arrangements, a photographer for an hour. Total estimated cost, just under $8,500. I sent everyone the itinerary. Group chat went wild. "Lauren, this is beautiful. You're a genius. I could never do this." "This is first-class stuff. You really outdid yourself, kiddo." "Let's go! You're clutch as always." I stared at the screen, my chest tight. Not one of them asked, "Hey, how much did this cost you up front? What do we owe you? Have you overextended yourself?" Instead, Mom said, "We'll all pay you back once we're there. Easier that way, right? I knew that was a lie, but I wanted so badly for this to be the event where they finally saw me that I let myself believe it. In June, I flew out of Austin at 6 a.m. on a Friday, laptop in my backpack, finishing up last-minute slides between gate announcements. My boss had said, "Try to unplug," but I knew I'd be checking Slack half the time. By the time I got to Florida, I was already tired. I didn't know it yet, but the next 48 hours would change everything. The first sign things were off came at check-in. I arrived at the resort an hour before my family to handle the room details. The lobby was all marble floors, white columns, and slightly too cold air conditioning. I felt underdressed in my travel leggings and oversized hoodie. The front desk attendant, Maya, smiled. "Welcome, Miss Miller. I see we have 4 rooms under your name for the Miller party." My name. My credit card. She printed the folio and slid it across. "We just need your authorization here. And I did want to note, the remaining balance will be charged to this card the morning of checkout, unless you'd like to split payment." She said it casually, like splitting was a normal option. I stared at the total. I knew the number from my spreadsheet, but seeing it in bold at the bottom made my stomach lurch. "Is it possible," I asked slowly, "for each guest to put their own card on file when they arrive?" "Of course," she said. "We can split evenly across rooms." Relief washed over me. "Yes, let's do that. I'll cover my room, they can cover theirs." She nodded, made a note, and that was the first moment I thought, I don't have to carry this alone. My parents and Evan arrived in a flurry of rolling suitcases and complaints about the heat. Mom hugged me like she hadn't FaceTimed me 2 days ago. "Oh, honey, this place is gorgeous. You have such an eye. You really do." At the desk, Maya explained the payment situation. Each room could put a card down. My dad chuckled awkwardly. "Right, about that. We were hoping Lauren could just put it on hers and we'd square up later. We don't want multiple charges. Gets confusing at tax time." I felt my jaw tighten. "No," I said. "Maya, we'll each put down our own card." Things went quiet. Mom shot me a look, the one that said, "We'll talk about this later." Evan leaned on the counter, flashing his half charm. "I actually left my wallet in the car. Just put mine on Lauren's and I'll Venmo you, sis." I looked him right in the eye. "I'm not putting your room on my card, Evan." His smile slipped for a second. "What's your problem? You know I'm good for it." I thought of the $300 "I'll pay you back Friday" from 3 years ago that had never materialized. I thought of the time he begged me to co-sign a car loan because my credit's trash, but yours is great. "No," I repeated. "You can go grab your wallet. I'll wait." There, a line. It was small, but it was there. He muttered something under his breath and stomped off. Dad sighed. Mom blinked fast, like she might cry. "We didn't raise you to be selfish, Lauren," she whispered. "You know he's been struggling." That word again. Struggling. I met her eyes. "I've been struggling too, Mom," I said quietly. "You just don't ask about it." She didn't respond. That night, I stayed up arranging decorations in the event room while everyone else sat at the pool bar. I tied ribbon around napkins, set candles on tables, checked the seating chart. At midnight, my manager slacked me. "Quick question on the release notes tomorrow. Can you take a look?" I sat on the floor of that ballroom, my laptop balanced on a chair, my eyes gritty, answering work messages while also troubleshooting whether we had enough chairs for Aunt Linda's surprise +1. It hit me then. every sphere of my life treated me like this. Work, Lauren will handle it. Family, Lauren will handle it. Friends, ask Lauren, she's organized. And I never said no. The next day, a few hours before the vow renewal, I was in my parents' room helping Mom steam her dress when I overheard the conversation that broke whatever was left inside me. Mom was fussing with her hair, curling iron in hand. "I just wish we could have done more for them," she said, staring at herself. "We've never been able to spoil our kids." Dad, sitting on the bed, replied, "Well, Evan really stepped up with this. You saw that email he sent? Let me handle things? I'm proud of him. He's finally acting like the man of the family." My hands froze on the fabric. "What email?" I asked carefully. Mom waved her hand. "Oh, that message he sent saying he was taking care of everything, making sure this happened. You know how much this means to us, Lauren. You should be taking notes from your brother." Taking notes from my brother. The guy who sent me a Venmo request last month labeled "Emergency, Beer." I felt my pulse in my ears. "He didn't plan any of this," I said. "I did. I booked everything. I paid the deposits." Mom frowned at me in the mirror. "Why are you making this about you?" she asked. "Your brother finally did something thoughtful and you're nitpicking the details. You always have to be the martyr." The words landed like a slap. Martyr. I realized in that moment they were never going to see me clearly. I could show them the spreadsheets, the credit card statements, the nights I sacrificed my sanity. None of it would matter. Because they liked the story where Evan was the golden son who stepped up, and I was the prickly, overly independent daughter who made things harder than they had to be. Something inside me went quiet, like a switch flipping. It was the first time in my life that instead of blaming myself, I saw the pattern for what it was. They weren't confused. They were comfortable. Comfortable with me carrying the weight. Comfortable with him taking the praise. And comfortable calling me selfish any time I dared to notice. I looked at my mom, her dress half-zipped, hair in rollers, waiting for me to fix everything like always. And I thought, I'm done. I didn't know what that meant yet, but I knew something had to break. The shove came during the reception. After Evan's little speech stealing credit for the entire event, my parents basking in the glow, and my credit card screaming quietly in my purse, I decided to step outside to breathe. I set the tray of centerpieces down, grabbed a glass of water, and headed toward the hallway. Evan caught me at the door. "Yo, where are you going?" he asked, already a little drunk. "We're doing a toast in 5. "You're doing a toast," I said. "I'm taking a break." He rolled his eyes. "Can you not be like this tonight? This is for Mom and Dad. Not everything's about your feelings." That did it. I turned to face him, years of swallowed frustration rising in my throat. "You know what's wild?" I said, voice shaking but steady. "You standing up there taking credit for a trip you didn't plan or pay for. That's what's about my feelings. My bank account is crying, actually." His jaw clenched. "We said we'd pay you back," he snapped. "Stop being so dramatic." "You haven't even asked how much it cost," I shot back. "You just assumed I'd cover it, like you always do." I didn't notice we had an audience until I heard someone clear their throat behind me. My dad, Mom, 2 of my cousins, and about 10 guests waiting for the bathroom. Public, of course. Dad's face was already red. "Lauren," he said sharply, "not here. Don't start." Evan stepped closer, lowering his voice, but not enough. "If you're so pressed about money, maybe you shouldn't have booked something this nice," he hissed. "Nobody asked you to go overboard. You just love playing the hero." Something snapped. "You're right," I said quietly. "No one asked. You just assumed. Like always." I could feel everyone watching. My heart pounded. My palms were slick. My mom's voice cut through the air, brittle. "Lauren, you're ruining your father's night. We raised you better than this. Apologize to your brother." Apologize. To him. The guy who had just publicly implied I was unstable for daring to mention that I'd paid thousands for this circus. For a second, I saw myself the way they must see me. Too serious, too rigid, always making things about money. Then, just as quickly, I saw the truth. They had never once asked if I was okay. They had never once volunteered to lighten the load. They had never once told Evan, "You're asking too much of your sister." I realized if I backed down now, nothing would ever change. So I took a breath, and instead of apologizing, I said, "No." The whole hallway went quiet. "Excuse me?" Mom asked. "No," I repeated. "I'm not apologizing to him. I'm not apologizing for being the only adult in this family who thinks about the cost of things." Dad stepped forward, jaw tight. "You watch your tone, young lady. After everything we've done for you." I laughed. I couldn't help it. It came out sharp and tired. "After everything I've done for you," I said. "Paid your late bills, covered his car payment, bought plane tickets, put this entire weekend on my card, and you're telling me I'm selfish?" Evan's face twisted. "You're making a scene," he growled. "You always do this. You can never just let people be happy." He stepped closer, chest puffed. I could smell the beer on his breath. Before I could react, his hands were on my shoulders. He shoved me backward. Not hard enough to knock me out, but hard enough that my back smacked the wall and my glass of water spilled down the front of my dress. Someone gasped. Someone said, "Oh my God." For a split second, time slowed. I saw my dad grab Evan's arm, not to pull him away from me, but to hold him back from doing it again. I saw my mom's face, not worried about me, but scanning the hallway to see who had seen. I saw my cousin, phone in hand, eyes wide. And in that slow, suspended moment, something in me went very, very still. I straightened up, wiped water off my dress, and looked my brother dead in the eye. "Don't touch me again," I said quietly. He muttered something about me being crazy and sensitive. My mom rushed to his side. "He didn't mean it," she said. "He's just stressed. Look at what he did for us this weekend. Don't start a fight." Dad nodded, eyes on me. "You're the older one," he said. "Be the bigger person." And that was it. The moment. The part of me that still believed they might someday see me, care for me the way I cared for them, believe my version of events. It died. Replaced by a clear, cold truth. They weren't going to protect me. They weren't going to hold him accountable. And if I stayed in this pattern, I was going to spend the rest of my life bleeding out emotionally and financially for people who saw that as my duty. So I made a decision. Right there in a Florida hotel hallway, water soaking my dress, my shoulder throbbing, my family staring at me like I was the problem. I wasn't going to play my part anymore. The next morning, while my parents were at brunch and Evan was presumably nursing a hangover, I went down to the front desk. I'd barely slept, half from adrenaline, half from replaying that shove on a loop. Maya was there again, her name tag slightly crooked. "Good morning, Miss Miller," she said. "How's everything going with your event?" I smiled, the kind of brittle smile you give when you're holding yourself together by a thread. "Could be better," I said. "Can I ask you a few questions about our reservation?" We stepped to the side, away from the line. I took a breath. "The rooms are all still under my name?" I asked. She checked the computer. "Yes, we have your card on file as the primary, but your father added his card for his room last night." Of course he did. For his. "What about the others?" I asked. "No additional cards." I nodded. "Okay, here's what I'd like to do. I want to switch my parents' room fully to my dad's card, and I want to remove my card from the other two rooms." Her eyebrows shot up just slightly. "You want those guests to be responsible for their own charges?" she clarified. "Yes," I said. "I'll cover my room and my parents' flowers and the dinner as planned. But the other rooms and any extra charges, they're on their own." She hesitated. "We can do that, but we'd need their cards today." A kind of dark humor bubbled up in me. "Perfect," I said. "They're all here." We adjusted my parents' folio first. Then she made a note. "Other guests must present their own cards by 4 p.m. today, or their rooms will be canceled." My heart pounded as I watched her type. This was it, my little rebellion. I thanked her, took my new printed folio, and went back upstairs. In my room, I sat on the edge of the bed and opened my banking app. I'd been tracking everything: the deposits, the dinner, the decorations I'd charged to my card in bits and pieces. It was a horrifying number, but seeing that my liability was now limited to one room and the event itself, not 4 rooms plus extras, made my shoulders loosen a fraction. I then did something that would have been unthinkable to me a year earlier. I opened my Notes app and started a script. A script for the conversation I was about to have. Because if I didn't write it down, I knew they'd twist my words and I'd start apologizing for things I hadn't done. I wrote, "I love you both. I am not your bank. I'm the only one who has consistently paid. I am done covering for Evan. I will cover X and no more. If you call me selfish, I will leave." I looked at those lines and felt like I was reading a foreign language. A version of me who protected herself. A version of me who believed her own story, even when others tried to rewrite it. I practiced out loud in the bathroom, hands shaking, voice wobbling. Then I texted my best friend, Jenna, back in Austin. Me. "I think I'm about to blow up my relationship with my family." She replied almost instantly. Jenna. "Or you're about to finally choose yourself. I'm on standby. You're not crazy. You're not selfish. You're allowed to stop." I took a screenshot of that message and set it as my lock screen, an anchor for when they inevitably tried to tell me otherwise. At noon, I asked my parents to meet me in their room. Evan was sprawled across the bed, scrolling his phone, shirtless, eating leftover cake. Of course. Mom looked nervous. "Is this about last night?" she asked. "Because you really overreacted." I held up a hand. "I'm going to say a few things. I said, "and I need you to not interrupt until I finish." They exchanged a look. Evan snorted. "This should be good," he muttered. I ignored him. My voice shook for the first 30 seconds, then it settled. I told them that the total cost of the trip was nearly $8,500, that I had paid all deposits and most of the charges so far, that I made less money than they assumed, and Austin rent wasn't a joke, that every little favor over the years, car payments, bills, emergencies, had come out of my savings and my future, that being capable did not make me their financial plan. I told them I loved them and that I was done. I watched their faces morph through the stages: surprise, discomfort, defensiveness. Then, right on cue, Mom started to cry. "We never asked you for all of that," she said. "You offered. We thought you liked helping." Dad shook his head. "This is about that degree of yours," he said. "You think you're better than us now. We did what we could with what we had. That's what family does, helps each other." I felt the old reflex rise in me. Explain, rationalize, soothe. Instead, I checked my lock screen. "You're not crazy. You're allowed to stop." "Yes," I said. "Family helps each other. But this hasn't been equal. I help, Evan takes. You cover for him and guilt me when I notice." Evan rolled his eyes. "Here we go again," he said. "Poor Lauren, world's biggest victim." My hands curled into fists. "You shoved me last night," I said. "In public, in front of our relatives and strangers. And they're more worried about me ruining the night than about you touching me like that. Do you understand how messed up that is?" Silence. For half a second, something like shame flickered across his face. Then he shrugged. "You got in my face," he said. "You love provoking me. You know I've got a temper. You should have let it go." My dad nodded. "You know your brother," he said. "You can't push his buttons like that." There it was. I felt a strange calm wash over me, like someone had peeled back the wallpaper and I could finally see the mold underneath. "You're right," I said, voice almost eerily steady. "I do know my brother, and I know you're never going to hold him accountable." I turned to my parents. "So here's what's going to happen," I said. "I will pay for the dinner tonight and the flowers. I will cover my room. The hotel is holding your room on your card now, Dad. Evan's and the cousins' rooms will be canceled by 4 p.m. if they don't put their own cards down. I've already told the front desk. I'm not changing it." My mom stared at me like I'd spoken another language. "You're punishing us," she whispered. "No," I said. "I'm stopping the pattern where I silently absorb all the consequences of everyone else's choices. That's it." Dad's jaw worked. "If you do this," he said quietly, "don't expect us to be there for you when you need help someday." The old me would have reeled. The new me, still shaky, still forming, heard the threat for what it was: leverage, control. I thought about all the times I'd needed emotional support and gotten criticism instead. I thought about how being there for me had usually meant telling me I was overreacting. "Okay," I said. They blinked. "Okay, what?" Mom asked. "Okay," I repeated. "If being there for me means what it has so far, I'll take my chances without it." I picked up my bag. "You have until 4 to put cards down for the other rooms," I said. "After that, it's between you and the hotel." Evan scoffed. "You don't have the guts," he muttered. I looked at him, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to convince him of anything. "Watch me," I said, and I walked out. At 4:15 p.m., I got a text from Maya. Maya, hotel. "Hi, Miss Miller. Just letting you know your father has confirmed his card. We did not receive cards from the other 2 rooms. Those reservations have been canceled per your request." I stared at the message in the quiet of my room. My heart was pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. I imagined the scene unfolding down the hall. Evan at the front desk, realizing his room was no longer reserved. My cousins, annoyed. My parents caught between anger at me and embarrassment at their son scrambling to find a cheaper place last minute. I didn't go watch. I lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Part of me felt guilty. Part of me was waiting for the explosion. But beneath that, deeper, there was something else. Relief. This was the first major family event where I had chosen myself over their comfort. That night, the vow renewal dinner was tense. My parents came down in their formal attire, smiles a little too tight, eyes a little too sharp. They'd clearly decided to push through for the sake of appearances. Evan showed up late, in a wrinkled shirt, looking like he'd lost a fight with a motel pillow. I heard snippets. Some cheap place down the road. Can you believe she actually did it? I'm not paying $400 a night. Are you insane? During dinner, my dad gave a speech about families sticking together. Everyone clapped. I toasted quietly with my water. After dessert, my aunt pulled me aside. "What happened?" she asked gently. "I heard something about the rooms and a fight." I considered brushing it off. Instead, I told her the truth, the financial pattern, the shove, the hotel. Her eyes widened, then softened. "You know," she said, "your mom and dad have always babied Evan. We all saw it, we just didn't say anything." She paused. "I'm proud of you," she added, "for saying no. I wish I had, with my own family, a lot earlier." Her words were a balm I didn't know I needed. Later that night, back in my room, my phone buzzed. A notification from Instagram. Someone had tagged me in a story. My cousin had posted a video, a quick clip from the hallway shove, blurred slightly, captioned, "When family drama hits the resort." I felt my stomach flip. I watched the video with the sound off. You could see it. Me, standing, face tight. Evan, leaning in, hands flying. The shove. My back hitting the wall. In the background, you could hear my mom's voice, half pleading, half scolding. "Stop it, you two! People are watching!" Not, "Are you okay, Lauren?" Not, "Don't touch your sister." Just, "People are watching." The video wasn't public, thank God. It was only visible to her close friends list, which somehow included me. But watching it shook me. Not because it made me look bad, but because it finally gave me something concrete. Proof. Visual evidence that I wasn't exaggerating, overly sensitive, or remembering it wrong. I saved the video to my phone. Not for revenge, for sanity. 2 days after we got home, my mom called. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was what I expected. "We didn't raise you to be cruel. Family forgives. Your brother is devastated. He says you made him feel like trash. We're disappointed in how you handled things." She never once said, "I'm sorry he shoved you." She never asked, "Are you okay?" My dad texted, "Dad, you went too far. You humiliated your own family. Don't expect Evan to forgive you." I stared at their messages. Then I opened my banking app. The final charges from the resort had posted. My total? A little over $3,200. Still a lot, but not 8,000+. I paid it off with a deep exhale, watching my emergency fund dip but not disappear. Then I opened my Notes app and created a new file. Title: Things I Will No Longer Do for My Family. I wrote, cover bills without a clear payback plan. Put trips on my card for now. Let them guilt me into saying yes. Pretend Evan isn't abusive when he is. Accept apologies that come with more demands. The reward, if you can call it that, wasn't their humiliation. It was my clarity. The karma, if there was any, wasn't dramatic. It was practical. Evan having to cram into a cheap motel with my cousins for the rest of the weekend. My parents finally having to look at a hotel bill with their own names on it. The extended family quietly talking about how intense their favoritism toward Evan had become. A week later, Jenna and I met for tacos in Austin. She listened to the whole story, start to finish, without interrupting. At the end, she said the sentence that still echoes in my head whenever I doubt myself. "You didn't blow up your family," she said. "You blew up a dysfunctional system where you were the unpaid, unthanked support staff. If they loved that system more than they love respecting you, that's on them." For the first time in my life, I believed it. It's been 9 months since the Florida trip. My relationship with my family looks very different now. For the first 2 months, I went low contact. I muted the group chat. I let calls go to voicemail. I answered only the messages that weren't guilt trips, which meant not many. When my mom texted, "We miss our girl," followed by, "It really hurt us that you made money such a big thing," I replied, "I miss you too. I'm happy to talk when you're ready to acknowledge the pattern of financial and emotional responsibility that has fallen on me. I won't pretend it didn't happen." She read it, didn't respond. My dad eventually sent a brief text. "We love you. We don't always understand you, but you're our daughter." It wasn't an apology, but it was something. Evan? He hasn't reached out. I heard through my aunt that he lost another job, that he's telling people I abandoned the family. A year ago, that would have gutted me. Now it just doesn't belong to me. In Austin, my life quietly rearranged itself. Without weekly, "Can you just?" calls from my parents and "Spot me till Friday?" texts from Evan, I suddenly had free time, extra money, mental space. I increased my 401k contribution by 2%. I booked a weekend trip to Santa Fe with Jenna, my first vacation that wasn't about seeing family. I found a therapist who specializes in adult children of emotionally immature parents. We talked about parentification, financial enmeshment, why saying no felt in my body like I was drowning a puppy. We worked on something wild, letting other adults experience the consequences of their own actions. At work, I noticed a shift too. I started saying no to being the default note-taker in meetings. I pushed back when my manager tried to hand me just one more project without adjusting my workload. I stopped staying late just because I was the only one who knew how to fix things fast. Instead of, "Yeah, I can handle that," I started saying, I don't have capacity for that right now. What can we deprioritize? And the world didn't end. If anything, people seemed to respect me more. I realized how deeply my family's narrative had seeped into my work life, that my value was in being endlessly available, endlessly accommodating, endlessly grateful to be needed. I'm slowly unlearning it. As for my parents, we're in a kind of cautious truce. We talk once every week or two. I keep conversations on safe topics: their garden, the weather in Ohio, my dog. When money comes up, I say, I'm not able to help with that, and change the subject. If they press, I say, we've talked about this. I'm not doing that anymore. The first few times, my heart raced. Now, it's getting easier. We have not fully repaired things. I don't know if we ever will. They still, to this day, have not acknowledged how their dynamic with Evan has hurt me. They still tell stories where he's the misunderstood underdog and I'm the tough one. But the difference is, I'm no longer bending myself into knots to fit that story. I have my own. And that's really why I'm telling you all of this. Because if you're anything like me, overworked, underappreciated, the strong one in your family or your office, it's so easy to believe that your exhaustion is just the price of love. That if you just give a little more, explain a little clearer, keep your temper a little better, they'll finally see you. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they like the version of you that's convenient for them more than they like the real, messy, boundary-setting you. And when that's the case, you're not obligated to keep paying the emotional and financial bill for their comfort. Here's what I've learned, standing on the other side of that Florida hallway shove. Being capable is not a life sentence. Just because you can carry it doesn't mean you should. Helping is a choice, not a duty. If the help is expected, demanded, or weaponized against you, it's no longer help. It's unpaid labor. Family is not a free pass for bad behavior. That's just how he is not a reason to let someone hurt you, physically, emotionally, or financially. Boundaries are not cruelty. Saying, I can't do that, or I won't talk to you if you yell at me, is not being selfish. It's being a grown woman who values herself. You are allowed to be the main character in your own life, not the supporting character in everyone else's drama. If you're watching this on your lunch break, mentally calculating everyone you support, parents, siblings, coworkers, and wondering when it gets to be your turn, hear me. You don't have to wait for a dramatic shove in a hotel hallway to make a change. You can start small. Say no to the extra project at work that no one else will take. Tell your sibling you can't send money this month. Let a call go to voicemail when you know it's just going to be another guilt trip. And when the voices in your head or in your family say, you're selfish, remember this. The people who benefit from you having no boundaries will always call your boundaries selfish. That doesn't make them wrong. It makes them necessary. I'm still Lauren, a project manager in Austin, with student loans and a messy kitchen, and a soft spot for my ridiculous family. I still love them. I probably always will. But I finally love myself more than I love keeping the peace. And for the first time in 33 years, that feels like enough.